Befeqadu Hailu and his fellow blogger and journalist Esmamu Haile Gorgis say they live in fear. The terrorism charges against them and 7 other bloggers and journalists were dropped after they spent more than a year in jail. Befeqadu describes what he says was 75 days of often violent interrogation in a windowless cell with only a mattress on the floor.
I was beaten with a cable on my barefoot. I was forced to do sit-ups. I was slapped a lot of times. I sometimes think that my life going to be between jail and getting released. The only thing that I want from the government is to allow me freely express myself.
This is Ethiopia's state broadcaster. The organisation Reporters Without Borders says the Ethiopian government has forced numerous private media companies to close in recent years. And according to the New York-based Committee for the Protection of Journalists, Ethiopia is the 4th most censored country in the world. Only Eritrea, North Korea and Saudi Arabia rank worse. But Ethiopia has one of the fastest growing economies in the world. It has grown on average by more than 10% a year over the last decade, and foreign investment is flooding in. This is the recently opened light railway. Now, it cost around $475 million to build with the help of a Chinese loan, and it's projects like these that help to highlight the rapid pace of development here in Ethiopia. Now, the government categorically denies accusations from its critics both here and abroad that ideas of democratic change and freedom of speech are being sidelined for the sake of economic development. The government says it's determined to beat poverty. With a per capita GDP of around $550, Ethiopia remains one of the poorest countries in the world. Its military and vast security apparatus have managed to protect the country from attacks by al-Shabaab fighters from neighbouring Somalia. The government says there has to be stability if it is to achieve its goal of transforming Ethiopia into a middle-income country in the next 10 years. It says the media are free to criticise, but there are limits, including what it describes as inciting political hatred or riots. But it does admit mistakes.
Overnight, you cannot have a full-fledged kind of democracy. That's why we said we are a learning country on democracy. We are in process. So there might be here and there, many things because of our immaturity. And above that and beyond that, there might be also errors. But we don't have that kind of, approach or procedures of interrogation and of handling. That's totally unacceptable because it's against our law, against our, more than that, principles.
And if evidence is presented, would the government allow a transparent, thorough investigation into allegations of torture?
That if they have come with concrete things, yes. No, because it's unacceptable.
But for journalists and bloggers like Esmamu and Befeqadu, words and deeds are sometimes very different things. Charles Stratford, Al Jazeera, Addis Ababa.